Hello all, welcome to Security AI Junction. So, as you all know, OpenAI has created a buzz in the market with its wide range of offerings and capabilities. So, I thought of creating a playlist where I can specifically focus on is OpenAI. So, I'll start with the introduction of OpenAI in this video, and followed by many videos on how we can solve real world examples using OpenAI. Let's get started. So what is OpenAI? OpenAI is an artificial intelligence and research laboratory which has produced, models, mainly GPT models, that can, generate human-like text, answering questions, perform language translations, and more. This GPT models, this is the most remarkable achievement of OpenAI. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformers, which are trained on massive amounts of text data. You can think of the text data as like entire Wikipedia, entire Stack Overflow, much more. So it has so much data to it, and it can perform or it can solve various real world natural language processing tasks, which we can see later. So what are the OpenAI offerings? It offers ChatGPT. As you all know, like we have already started using ChatGPT in the real time. It is a conversation interface where you can ask a question and OpenAI will respond back. So in the back end, the ChatGPT is using OpenAI as a flagship model, which is GPT-4 as of today. And the second offering is DALI. So it creates a realistic images and arts from a description in a natural language. You give the description in a language like you create a red T-shirt with a logo, with the Audi logo in the center. So it gives a realistic image. The third one is API. So in order to access or use those OpenAI models, we should have API access. And with that API access, you can integrate OpenAI models anywhere into your business and applications. Okay. So the OpenAI API, so what is the use of it? Like when you have API access, you can use the OpenAI models like ChatGPT-4, Freeport Turbo, DALI, etc., anything to solve your use case. And the use cases could be like content generation, summarization, classification, categorization, sentiment analysis, data extraction, translation. So these are all the real world use cases which we are seeing right now. For example, content generation. So this will be used for the content creators, who wants to create a content on any topic. We just give an example, like we create a topic or create a content on, something like Virat Kohli or Dhoni. Then it will create some content according to it, depending upon its knowledge. Summarization. This is one of the widely used use cases today. Like you have a PDF document of 40 pages, and if you want to summarize it into, to do some limit, then this is summarization task can be achieved by using OpenAI. Okay. Completion endpoint. So this is the starting point, or where you can start using OpenAI models. With the API key, you will be accessing the completions endpoint of OpenAI, where you will be giving some text, and OpenAI will give some responses and output. The text what you give as an input, that what we call it as prompt, and the response what it generates is called as completion. Example prompt is like write a tagline for an ice cream shop, and the completion, which is the response of OpenAI, it's like these some smiles with every scope. So the prompt is an input text, and the completion is also, it's an output of text. In OpenAI terms, we call it as a prompt and the completion. And this is the playground. If you open OpenAI website, you will be able to see the playground. This is like where you can access the questions, and you see a lot of parameters: temperature, maximum length, stop sequences, stop P, frequency penalty, presence penalty, and so on. As a developer, if you are planning to use OpenAI in your code or something, then you should be aware of these parameters and what it does. This will be useful for various use cases, and which I will talk about it in the following session. So the parameters: model, temperature, maximum length, stop sequences, stop P, frequency penalty, presence penalty, best of, inject start text, inject restart text, show probabilities. So these are all the parameters what you see in the playground as of today. Out of these parameters, model is an it's a must parameter, whereas the rest of them, they are all optionals. Models. As I mentioned, models is that is what OpenAI has built so far. That GPT-4, 3.5 Turbo. So each one serves different purposes. And if it is a chat, there are several models like GPT-4, GPT-3.5 Turbo, and so on. But for now, you can just remember GPT-4 and GPT-3.5 Turbo. And the second one is completions, V1/completions. And these are all the first very generated models by OpenAI, which was released earlier. Text Davinci 003, 002, Curie, Package, Ada. So each one serves a different purpose, or each one is used for different set of use cases. But the most commonly used is Text Davinci 003, which is very powerful, and you can use it for any sort of use case. Okay, so when I say this is an endpoint, like you can use this in a code like API www.openaiapi.com/v1chat completions. If you want to use GPT-4, you have to access the first one, and if you want to use Text Davinci 003, you want to use the second one. Text Davinci 003, those are all free, whereas except GPT-4, the rest of things are free. Anyone can use it. Okay, we will see each parameter one by one, and we'll see like what it actually does. And the first parameter is a token. Token. So what is a token? Any language model, it processes your input text by breaking down into smaller units called tokens. Tokens can be of words, chunks, or single characters. Let's take an example. I have an orange cat named Butterscotch. So this I have an orange cat name. These are all tokens, individual words. The butterscotch can be further we can further break down into further more tokens, that ch. So these are all chunks of words. So why are we doing this? Because in a context of language model, so the language model, it predicts some text, like with the probability, like what's the best probability of the text to be generated. Each token will be generated, or it will be predicted by the model. So that is what any language model does. Temperature. Okay, so as I mentioned, like the model predicts which text is most likely to follow the text preceding it. The temperature is a value that is ranging between 0 to 2. That essentially lets you control how confident the model should be when making these predictions. Lowering the temperature means it will take fewer risks, and the completions will be more accurate and deterministic. Increasing the temperature will result in more diverse completions, which means if you want your answers should be deterministic or constant, then you should give it a lower temperature. And if you increase the temperature value, and the model will look out for diversified options, and it will generate different values each time when each time when you are running the model. Let's take an example. See, in this example, let's say the question is like what you would like to eat. Okay, and if you set a higher temperature, as I mentioned, the probability distribution which becomes more uniform, and it has equal chances to all the tokens in the OpenAI vocabulary, which means like every time it will generate a different word, like a pizza, sushi, burger. Pizza, sushi, burger, these are all the tokens which has been generated by OpenAI depending upon the probability. Like pizza has a probability of 0.4, sushi has a probability of 0.35, and burger has a probability of 0.2. And since we have higher temperature, it will look out for all the probable tokens. So pizza, sushi, burger. On the other hand, when you set a lower temperature, it will always look for the most probable word, or that has the highest probability. So it will pick pizza because that has the highest probability of 0.35. I'm just saying the probability values as an example. If pizza has the highest probability, and if you set a lower temperature, then pizza will be generated each time when you run the question. That's what I said. Lower temperature will always B, will always generate a responses more deterministic and constant. Maximum length. So maximum length refers to the maximum number of tokens allowed in the input text. Input text in the sense the prompt. When you are making an API call to the OpenAI model and you are asking a question, and you can set the maximum number of tokens or maximum number of length of the tokens. Let's say if you are giving 100 tokens, and OpenAI will consider the question till that 100th token. And if your input text is more than that, OpenAI will simply discard, but it will not error out. And this is mainly useful when we are controlling the input text and the output length parameters. Like if your model is capable of handling only 8,000 tokens, then we should be able to control what would be our input length token and our output length sequences. In those cases, actually, this maximum length parameter is crucial. Top P. There is another parameter called top P, which is called as a nucleus sampling. It sets a probability threshold for considering the most likely tokens during the text generation. It selects the most probable tokens until the cumulative probability exceeds a specific threshold value. Okay, let's take an example. It is, it is also like, it is not similar to temperature. On the context of temperature, you will see what a top P does. Let's say like there's a question called what is sitting on the wall, and OpenAI, from its vocabulary, it is generating some of the tokens like cat, dog, apple, banana, elephant, car with some probability values 0.3, 0.2, 0.15, 0.1, 0.1, 0.05. It's just an example. Okay, and if you set the top P threshold value to 0.5, which means it will list down the probable tokens in the descending order, and it will start picking the tokens until it is reaching the cumulative threshold, like until the probability of selected tokens is reaching the threshold value. For example, the cat probability is 0.3. Okay, so that will be selected. And the next is dog is 0.2. So 0.3 plus 0.2, still it is lesser than the threshold value of 0.5, so that will be selected. Whereas apple 0.15, if you add apple, so 0.5 plus 0.15, it will be 0.65, which is greater than the top P value, so that will not be selected. So OpenAI will discard apple, banana, elephant, car. So each time when you ask this question with the top P value of 0.5, so OpenAI will either result dog or cat. Okay, so the other tokens will get disregarded. So if you simply keep on increasing the top value to 0.8% in this case, so that will pick everything 0.3, 0.2, 0.15, 0.1, 0.1, and 0.00, which means dog, cat, apple, banana, elephant, car, all the tokens has equal probabilities to be get picked up by the model. So when you run for the first time, it will get the cat. The next time it will say dog, and then the next time apple. So each time it will generate a different token because you have set a higher top P value. If you lower the top P value, and it will always look for the tokens which is following that threshold value. Okay, so the more the top P value, and it will try to fit in more number of probable tokens. Frequency penalty. Okay, frequency penalty is a parameter that influences the likelihood of the model repeating the same or similar words in its generated text. It penalizes the model for selecting tokens that have already been used frequently in the generated output. Okay, so for example, there's a question called I love to go to something. You are asking to the OpenAI model, and the model that will have a probability of resulting beach, park, mountain, and a city. So each time when it is giving different answers without a frequency penalty, let's say it is giving I love to go to the beach first time, I love to go to the park second time, and third time again it will say I love to go to the beach, because they have a more probabilities, and you don't want that same word or the token to repeat again and again. So in that case, what you'll do, you will set the frequency penalty. Okay, so if you use a frequency penalty, if you set the high frequency penalty, so that will look for more diversified options, which means like even the first time beach, second time park, and the third time the beach will not be repeated. Instead of that, it will repeat city. Okay, so in order to look for diversified options, you have to set high frequency penalty. In this way, the model will penalize the model by not repeating the same or similar words again. Presence penalty. So the presence penalty in the context of OpenAI, it is more similar to frequency penalty, where in the same generated text, it will stop or avoid the words which has been generated, which has been already generated. For example, there is a question called write a story about a brave knight fighting a dragon. Okay, and the model responses are like the brave knight courageously fought the dragon, so and so. There are three responses. Okay, if you look at it, in like the dragon has been repeated twice and the brave has been repeated twice. It is like every time the brave knight has been keep on generating. If you don't want that to happen, you can increase the presence penalty to a higher value. So, it encourages the model to vary its vocabulary and use alternative options. Here also, it's like the same. To use a more diversified tokens, we are using presence penalty. In the real time, you will be combining both the frequency penalty and the presence penalty to a certain limit, and you will see like how the model is giving diversified options. And for example, like when you're using a chatbot, when you're using OpenAI for building a chatbot, and in order to make the bot more as like a human-like bot, and we set these options to a high level so that it gives every time it generates a different or diversified vocabularies. On the other hand, if you want that output to be deterministic, we always set all these values to 0 or lower value. Best of. Okay, so the best of parameters, it's like how many generated responses will be considered, and from those responses, the final one will be selected. It is essentially controls the number of candidates competing for the title of the best response. Okay, let's take an example. What is your favorite color? And the model will generate a responsible like blue, red, or green. So out of the blue, red, or green, if I say like the best of value as one, it will choose the best option, best of one. And if I give best of two, and it will out of the two, uh, it will select one. And if it is a best of three, like out of the three generated responses, it will choose the best among the one. So what is the criteria in order to choose the best? It will be like coherence, relevance, grammar, and the contextual meaning, whether it has been contextually related to the current question, and much more. This is an internal ranking with respect to OpenAI, where it is choosing the best of from its generated responses. Okay, so for any question what you ask, OpenAI will generate a lot of questions, like a lot of answers in the backend. So in order to choose what is the best of all those responses, we control this parameter. Show probabilities. Like as I was talking about, each token that the OpenAI is generating, that will have a probability. And if you want to see those probabilities, there is an option called as show probabilities. So the show probabilities for each word or for each token the OpenAI is generating, it will also list the probability value. And there are three options: most likely, less likely, and the full spectrum. Imagine, like let's take an example like how is the weather today, and the OpenAI is like, and let's say it is generating three tokens: sunny, rainy, and cloudy, with the probabilities 0.7, 0.15, and 0.15. Most likely means, it will always generate the weather look today is 0.70, which is sunny. And if it is less likely, it will generate sunny or rainy or sunny or cloudy. If it is a full spectrum, it will generate all the all the tokens generated from its vocabulary with the probability value. Stop sequences. So you can stop sequences parameter allows you to control over the length and the structure of the generated text. By specifying certain stop sequences, you can effectively define where the generated output should end and prevent the model from generating the text beyond that point. For example, you are asking a question, you describe something about India's economy, and you want to stop the model at certain point. And if we give a full stop, as soon as the output is generated, let's say it is the model is generating a line, and it is keeping a full stop. As soon as it encountering the full stop, the model will stop it there. it will not continue to generate a further tokens. Okay, so in real world, what we use is like we use the stop sequence as hash. So whenever it is encountering hash, then we ask OpenAI, okay, stop there. And this will be very useful, like where you have to stop the sequence, because actually the model will keep on generating a lot of things. If you ask one program, like generate something, a program related to something or Fibonacci series, it will give multiple versions of the program. Like there will be alternate ways to solve a program. It will give multiple ways, and you want to know where you have to stop the model to stop the model. In those cases, you just mentioned the stop sequences, like okay, like if there's when you reach an end of the program, or something like that, there will be some things, sequences where you can tell an OpenAI model to stop there. This is a very useful feature. And there are other two parameters, like start inject text in I mean inject start text, inject restart text. Basically, it's like inject the start text. The OpenAI model will start generating the output from the word what you're giving. Suppose like if I'm giving the inject start text as like, hi, I'm a bot, which means you're telling the OpenAI model to generate the output starting with that word, hi, I'm a bot. Okay, and inject restart text. It's like when you give that specific word, or similar words, it can you can make the topic to change, or uh, when you're talking about a specific model or something, and when you give that word, which means like you are telling a model, okay, change the topic and go to something else. So these are all the parameters, which are essential if you are making an API connection to OpenAI. Not all are mandatory. Only that model is mandatory, but these are parameters that the developer must know in order to play with it. Or suppose like you are using an OpenAI model, and if it is not giving the correct response or something, then what the next step, what you have to do is like adjust these parameters and make the model to give the response like of what you have to say. So these parameters are must known to the developers. This is our first video on on this OpenAI. In the upcoming videos, like we will talk about how to connect to OpenAI, and we will solve some real world use case uh, with OpenAI APIs. Okay. Thank you all. Please like and subscribe to my Please AI Junction. Thank you.